Home and Security editor Mark White. He was at the Insulate Britain protests at Old Street in East London this morning. Mark, tell us about the protests.
Yeah, we can't get away from it. They're intrinsically linked in a sense. You know, all the concerns over utility bills, rising fuel prices. Insulate Britain say that makes their case for ensuring that homes are properly insulated to drive down these costs of fuel bills is even more important than ever. But are they going about it the right way? Well, if you're a weary motorist, you're certainly going to think, no, they're not going about it the right way because you're causing me absolute misery on my journey trying to get to work or wherever else I might want to go. And today again, they've been out, Liam. They were out in Old Street in central London. If you know that area, it's basically just as you come from the east, that conduit that takes you up to the city, that takes you down into central London or indeed back out to East London. It's always busy around the Old Street roundabout, and that's why it was deliberately targeted by Insulate Britain today. They sat down on the road and for some 2 hours they blocked that roadway. And in conjunction with that protest, there was another one back on the M25, the orbital motorway around London. Junction 25 of the M25 was blocked as well by these protesters, determined to cause as much disruption as possible. They're unapologetic. They realise that it's disrupting people's daily lives, but they want to get as much attention for their particular cause as possible. And their calculation, Liam, is even if you don't like what we're doing, at least you're talking about the issue that we are making you think about.
This seems to me like an escalation, Mark. The M25, obviously a hugely important orbital road, but not smack in the middle of the capital. The Old Street roundabout is really the gateway to East London. It's just north of the City of London. It's called Silicon Roundabout. It's if you like, it's the icon of our emerging high-tech industry. It's a crucially sensitive, busy and important junction. And I think we can take a look now, Mark, at a report showing the protests, a report that you shot earlier today.
Insulate Britain, of course, have been causing traffic chaos now for, what is this, 11th or 12th time, the 11th or 12th day in a row. I'm just going to step to the side and give you a look at what's happening here at the moment. They have now, after about an hour or so, moved in to start making arrests here. Some of the people just on the pavement here. This is the main Old Street roundabout, clearly a very busy area of London, into the city if you're heading towards East London, if you want to head into the city or indeed into central London. This is an area. I'm going to see if I can speak. We've got another arrest taking place here, actually. So, I mean, the police have, to be fair to them, despite being moved on by that sergeant there, they have been a little quicker in getting these protesters out of the way. The problem is, of course, that some of the protesters will glue themselves to the roadway, and that can cause a bit more of an issue in terms of getting special teams out to try to ensure that the protesters' hands are removed from the roadway without causing them too much harm. I'm going to see if I can speak to this woman down here, this protester. Excuse me, sir. Well, if she wants to speak to me, that's up to her. That's not up to you. Can you tell me why?
I'm doing this because we're asking the government to insulate homes.
Looks pretty chaotic down there, Mark.
Yeah.
What's been going on since you shot that report?
Well, I mean, police there at the time, I'm not going to criticise them. They didn't want me in the way of their processing of these people. Clearly, we want to speak to them because of the disruption they're causing and why they feel so strongly about the need to.
It's your job.
And the need to do that, yes. But it was about 2 hours of disruption that it caused to that area before police were able to remove the last of the protesters. What happens, of course, is that some of them will glue their hands down onto the roadway itself, and that causes a bit more of a delay as the police have to bring in specialist solvents to try to remove their glued up hands from the road without hurting them. So it's, of course, a nightmare if you're the travelling public in that always clogged up area of central London anyway. And then on top of that, Liam, when you have to deal with even more traffic jams caused by Insulate Britain. They're not, despite what Boris Johnson even mentioning it in his speech at conference.
He said he wanted them insulated at Her Majesty's pleasure in prison, right?
Making quips and telling us how they were determined to lock them up. Well, the protesters certainly don't seem to be alarmed or put in fear by any of the promises or threats made by the Prime Minister, his Home Secretary, or indeed the Transport Secretary. They say they are going to continue their action until they claim they get meaningful action in return from the government on this insulating property programme that they want to see instigated. Now, I've been working on putting a proper report together on what I witnessed this morning, and we'll bring that to you in the next hour, Liam.
Thank you very much.